Hi, this is Lauren Swenson with AOScan. Welcome to our video training series, and this is video 6. In this video we're going to talk about performing the metatherapy, and this is the therapy part of the scan, whereas the first part, where we're just running the research and doing the scan, we're actually doing the diagnosing side of the scan, where it's actually looking at the selected items and then comparing the frequencies in each item to known healthy frequencies in a database. And as we talked about in video 5, these green dots, so this is what your screen would look like when the scan is finished, and it shows green dots, bright red dots, dark red dots. Those are indicating, in video 5 we explained that a red dot would mean that there's at least 1,5 in the scan. If we click on here, the wall of the rectum, we see that there is 1,5 in the wall of the rectum here. So that would make it a bright a bright red. And if you go to the transversal section of the appendix, we've got several 6s, and that's why we have the dark red. And then if you go to a green, there are no 5s or 6s. So there's your color code and what those mean. So if we go to the tissue of the liver, we've got 1 6 and several 5s in conjunction with a bunch of 3s and 4s. So this is one of those issues that needs metatherapy, and it's got a critical area that needs immediate attention. So we'd want to start metatherapies on the dark reds, and then go to the reds, and then eventually we might work on some of the 4s that have lots of 4s and 3s. But you want to start with the ones that are the worst, which would be your dark red. And then you'll be surprised that as those clear up and get better, that a lot of the others will improve as well. So we've selected tissue of the liver, which is a dark red. It has 1 6 in it. And we're going to go up and click current analysis. Okay? Not research, because we're not going to do a scan. We want to do a current analysis. And here we have the option of a metatherapy. Now, metatherapy is what is the part that actually tries to correct those frequencies that are unhealthy. And the way it does that is it takes each one of these frequencies that are out of range and would then play them back through the headset into the head, but out of phase. In other words, it would send it back in, for lack of better terms, upside down, so that when the signal coming in hits the exact same frequency inside the organ, that's right side up, when those two hit each other, they cancel. Kind of like the principle in noise canceling headphones. The headphones that you wear to block out the noise, they have little microphones in the ear cups, and they're taking in the sounds or the frequencies that are outside of the headphones and then reversing them and playing them inside the ear cup out of phase, and so they cancel out that noise, allowing you to only hear the music that's coming through your headphones. Well, the same principle applies here. They're taking your unhealthy frequencies, playing them back in to the brain out of phase with the frequencies inside, allowing them to cancel out, and it gives that part of the organ or cell or tissue the opportunity to correct itself if it's able to. And that's what metatherapy is. So here we're going to click on metatherapy, and that brings up a larger picture of the issue or the tissue that we're going to do the therapy. And you see the little green target thing here? You can move it around. It's not necessary on some of the earlier versions of this technology. You would move that to go over the areas that are need more help. But in this version of the software, that's not necessary. So you can just leave it where it's at. But now it's ready. When you see the little green target, it's now ready, and all you have to do is press the start button. And when you do, it'll immediately start to play all those frequencies back into the brain, but out of phase. And you'll notice that some of those changed numbers. Some of them went lower which is a wonderful thing to see. So you can do this 3 to 5 times, and then you would need to move on to another organ. And if you'll look here in the over in this directory, you see tissue of the liver, and then you see tissue of the liver metatherapy, which tells you you've done one metatherapy. So again, we hit current analysis, metatherapy, and start. And it goes through again. You'll notice that some more of those changed or improved. Goes back to the directory, and you see tissue of the liver, and it went from a dark red to a bright red, which means it got rid of the 6. Still had some 5s. Now we have two metatherapies. See, metatherapy, metatherapy. So it keeps track for you. Hit current analysis again. Metatherapy. Start. This will be our 3rd one. And now it got rid of, looks like all of the 5s. So if you come back down here now and see, we've got tissue of the liver, metatherapy, 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 and then tissue of the liver, metatherapy, metatherapy, metatherapy 3 times. So if we move that away, you can see that we've gone from a dark red to a green in tissue of the liver in 3 passes. So this, I would then move on to the next item. If it was real close and there was maybe only one more 5 left, I might go another 1 or 2, but I would not exceed 5 times. In this type of therapy, the old adage, less is more, really applies. So 3 to 5 metatherapies on any one item before moving on to the next. And when you see this type of change, that means that that issue or that organ was at a point where all it needed was a little bit of a jump start, a little push in the right direction. And so that's how metatherapy works. And just to give you another reference, these numbers are logarithmic, which means a 1 to a 2, there's 10 steps, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, etc. 2 to a 3, the same, 3 to a 4, 4 to a 5, 5 to a 6. So you may see a number stay the same. It may be still as a 6 after 3 or 5 metatherapies, and maybe even after 2 or 3 sessions. And then all of a sudden it'll just jump and drop all the way down to a 4 or a 3. Because it's logarithmic, some of those critical issues may take longer to show an improvement from a full number, from a 5 to a 6, or a 6 to a 5, or 5 to a 4. But it's obviously making some progress in there. Maybe it went from a 6 to a 5.6 in the logarithmic scale, and so it would still show a 6 because it's above a 5. So that's how metatherapy works. It's really quite simple, easy to do. And so here you'd go to your next item. So we have the transversal section of the appendix, has more 6s. We'd hit current analysis, metatherapy, start. And so you would do this until you have gone through all the issues you have that needed metatherapy, but you would never exceed 45 minutes of metatherapy. 45 minutes of doing metatherapy is all that is comfortable for the brain to handle. Otherwise, you might develop a headache or feel a little sick or dizzy or tired. So metatherapy no longer than 45 minutes in any one setting. That concludes video 6. Hope this was helpful. See you on video 7.